step further and my bag will be.
Hollywood, with all its glitz and glamour, has always hidden a darker side behind the bright lights. For many actors, especially those who were bisexual, life wasn't just about fame. From secret scandals to public heartbreak, these are the 30 worst ways bisexual Hollywood actors have met their untimely demise. Which legendary star's death became a haunting mystery, and which one was a terrifyingly public downfall? Let's find out. Number 1. James Dean. He was Hollywood's golden boy of rebellion, who looked like he had just rolled out of bed after punching a jukebox. While he had a knack for acting, he also had a talent for speeding. The guy loved fast cars, which in retrospect was like a death wish wrapped in cool sunglasses. On September 30th, 1955, his Porsche Spyder kissed another car at an intersection, and boom, Dean's life was cut short at just 24. It is like the universe looked at him and said, "You know what? That is enough greatness for one lifetime." And of course, the rumors about his sexuality have kept people guessing for decades. Men, women, both? Who cares when you look that good in a white t-shirt? What's tragic is we never got to see him grow into more roles. Imagine a 50-year-old James Dean in a rom-com or a mafia boss flick. Now, that is a twist we all deserved.
You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!
Number 2. Sal Mino. Sal Mino had the world at his feet, starring alongside Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. He had that cute but dangerous look that screamed, "I am trouble, but you like it." Openly bisexual, in a time when even mentioning that got you blacklisted. Sal was one of Hollywood's early LGBTQ+ icons, but life had other much more violent plans. In 1976, at 37, he was randomly stabbed to death outside his West Hollywood apartment. No, really, stabbed. Why? Nobody knows. Wrong place, wrong time, and a whole lot of wasted talent. His career had started to heat up again, and then boom, gone. It's like the universe threw a dice and landed on senseless tragedy for Mineo. Just imagine how weird it must be to be known for both being an LGBTQ trailblazer and one of Hollywood's most bizarre murder victims. Number 3. Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury was the frontman of Queen, known for his voice that could shake the heavens and a mustache that could probably do the same. Mercury broke the mold, melted it down, and made a crown out of it. He was confident, unapologetically bisexual, and never cared about fitting into anyone's box. His long-term relationship with Mary Austin was something straight out of a Shakespearean drama, and his later romances with men were just another proof of his love knows no boundaries vibe. But like many greats, he didn't get the Hollywood ending. AIDS came knocking, and Freddie went out like the legend he was, dropping Bohemian Rhapsody-level music until the very end. His death in 1991 was like the world losing a bit of its sparkle. And the fact that he fought his illness in silence, well, that is Freddie, never needing the spotlight when he wasn't on stage.
I thought, fine, I'll sing my rock and roll songs with a tutu on, I don't care.
Number 4, David Bowie. David Bowie, the man who made it cool to be weird. He wasn't just a musician, he was a cultural alien, redefining everything from fashion to sexuality. Whether he was Ziggy Stardust or the thin white Duke, Bowie always managed to stay ahead of the curve, leaving society in his glittery dust. He came out as bisexual long before it was fashionable, making him a queer icon before most people even knew what that meant. And then, just when you thought Bowie was immortal, liver cancer struck in and reminded us that even cosmic beings have an expiration date. He released Black Star just days before his death in 2016, a musical farewell letter that still haunts everyone who listens to it. Bowie went out exactly as you would expect, mystifying and unforgettable. It is almost like he planned his death to be a final performance, leaving us all with the bitter realization that life, just like Bowie, is always too short.
There's a star man waiting in the sky.
Number 5. Marlon Brando. Now, he was the original bad boy of Hollywood. He could make a simple "Hey Stella" sound like a life or death situation, and his role in The Godfather was so iconic, it is practically a personality trait now. But while his acting was legendary, his personal life was more like a chaotic art project. Brando admitted to relationships with men and women, including his buddy Wally Cox, which back then was like announcing you were from Mars. And yet, Brando couldn't care less. He had more important things to focus on, like being one of the greatest actors of all time. Brando lived to a ripe old age, finally leaving this mess of a planet in 2004 due to respiratory failure. But his later years? Let's just say the guy turned into a recluse, making headlines for wearing caftans, gaining weight, and generally just being Marlon Brando, unhinged edition. When he died, it felt like an entire era of Hollywood disappeared with him. The era where actors were more than just pretty faces.
You're well, kid. What am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go? Into the world.
Number 6, Jean-Claude Brey. Jean-Claude Brey wasn't just your typical French actor. He was a graceful example of French cinema during the New Wave era. If you have never heard of him, it's probably because he was too classy to demand attention. He just got it. He had relationships with both men and women because, it is France. While Hollywood was busy sweeping all that under the red carpet, Brey lived openly, adding a dash of honesty to his artistic charm. But in 2007, after a private and drawn-out battle with cancer, Brey's curtain fell for the last time. Fans were left shocked and heartbroken as he had never made a public spectacle of his illness. His death didn't just mark the end of his life. It was like the French film industry itself lit a cigarette, exhaled, and said, "C'est fini." Number 7, Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck was Hollywood's ultimate chameleon. From melodramas to film noir, she did it all and made it look effortless. Men adored her, but the whispers about her rumored relationships with women, like the fiery Tula Bankhead, gave her a secretive allure. Did she swing both ways? Stanwyck never confirmed it, but Hollywood was a place where secrets were currency. When she passed in 1990 from congestive heart failure, it was like the final credits rolling on the golden age of Hollywood. Her quiet personal life left people guessing until the very end. But hey, mystery is part of what made her a star.
You are thieves, killers, adulterers, blasphemers, and liars 6 days a week.
Number 8, Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday's voice could break your heart in 3 notes, but her life was even more tragic than her songs. While Billie had relationships with both men and women, her real love affair was with chaos. Addiction, abusive relationships, and the crushing weight of fame all left their scars on Lady Day. By the time she died in 1955 at 44, her body had taken a beating from drugs and alcohol. The tragic irony was, while she was busy giving the world beautiful music, she couldn't save herself from the brutal soundtrack of her own life. She lived hard, loved hard, and left us way too soon, just like one of her ballads.
Of the gallant South.
Number 9, Anthony Perkins. Anthony Perkins will forever be remembered as Norman Bates, the ultimate mama's boy with some serious boundary issues. But Perkins was a far cry from the psychopath he played on screen. In real life, he was quiet, private, and thanks to the times, forced to keep his bisexuality mostly hidden. He had relationships with men, but eventually married Barry Burnson and had kids, managing to balance the best of both worlds, or at least trying to. But Perkins' life took a dark turn when he died of AIDS-related pneumonia in 1992. This made him one of Hollywood's many silent casualties of the epidemic. Like Rock Hudson before him, Perkins' death wasn't just tragic, it was a wake-up call to the world that even the most beloved stars could be taken down by the stigma and silence surrounding AIDS.
Fight the fear of AIDS with the facts.
Number 10, Judy Garland. She was everyone's favorite dreamer, skipping down the yellow brick road in The Wizard of Oz. But her real life was more of a tornado than a rainbow. She married 5 men, but rumors flew about her possible relationships with women. Frankly, her love life was probably the least complicated thing about her. Judy's real demons were the prescription drugs Hollywood threw at her to keep her performing, and they eventually led to her tragic overdose in 1969 at just 47 years old. Her final act was dying alone in her bathroom from a barbiturate overdose. It was the heartbreaking end to a life that had seen too much pressure, too much pain, and not nearly enough happiness. We will always remember her as the girl who brought joy to millions while quietly crumbling behind the curtain.
They left me out there all alone. Mama said, "You're on your own."
Number 11, Clara B. Clara B was the one who set screens ablaze with her beauty, charisma, and infectious energy. As Hollywood's first true it girl, Clara embodied the roaring 20s with her carefree flapper charm. Her fame came with a heavy price. Clara's private life was a tabloid circus, with rumors about relationships with both men and women swirling alongside scandalous stories of affairs, lawsuits, and mental health struggles. The studio system exploited her, churning out film after film until her physical and emotional health crumbled. Her mental health deteriorated, with multiple nervous breakdowns forcing her into early retirement in the 1930s. She spent her final years in isolation, far removed from the limelight that once adored her. She died of a heart attack in 1965 at age 60. Number 12, Peter Allen. He was Broadway's ultimate showman, dazzling, confident, and endlessly entertaining. Born in Australia, he made his mark not just as a performer, but as a songwriter. He was married to none other than Liza Minnelli, and while their union had its moments of glittery spectacle, it didn't last. Peter's real love life was far from complicated. He had relationships with men throughout his life, but at a time when being openly gay or bisexual was far from acceptable in mainstream entertainment, he kept much of it quiet. He brought joy to the stage, contrasted sharply with the heartbreak of the AIDS epidemic that ravaged the LGBTQ+ community. Peter Allen passed away in 1992 from AIDS-related complications at the height of his career. His death was a gut-wrenching loss for both Broadway and the LGBTQ+ community.
Nowhere but George and his library, or a son with a gun.
Number 13, George Michael. From his days as one half of Wham to his solo mega hits, George dominated the airwaves of the 80s and 90s. Early on, George identified as bisexual, but by the mid-90s, he openly embraced his identity as a gay man. However, his personal life collided with his fame in messy public ways. A string of high-profile arrests for lewd conduct and drug possession painted him as a troubled soul, struggling to reconcile his sexuality with the pressures of global stardom. Despite the tabloid scandals, George never stopped making music that resonated with millions. But the pressure of fame, coupled with his struggles of substance abuse, left their mark. In 2016, George died suddenly of heart failure at the age of 53. It was extremely shocking for his fans, who still believed he had many more hits left in him. Number 14, Lou Reed. Lou Reed was the definition of a musical rebel, a man who refused to play by anyone's rules but his own. As the front man for the Velvet Underground, Lou helped shape the sound of modern rock, fusing art, sexuality, and the raw emotion in songs that push boundaries both sonically and lyrically. He had relationships with both men and women throughout his life, and his exploration of sexuality in his music made him a trendsetter for LGBTQ+ expression in rock. He dabbled in drug use, embraced his bisexuality, and famously clashed with critics and record labels who couldn't tame his wild, creative spirit. Health issues, particularly liver disease, marked his later years, the result of his hard-living rock and roll lifestyle. He passed away in 2013 at 71. If anything, Reed's life was proof that breaking the rules can create something truly unforgettable.
Feed the animals in the zoo.
Number 15, Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr was best known for his iconic portrayal of the brilliant defense lawyer Perry Mason, a role that made him a household name. But behind his TV persona, Burr's real life was shrouded in secrecy. Though he was involved in relationships with both men and women, he never publicly addressed his sexuality. In mid-century Hollywood, being openly gay was career suicide, so Burr kept his private life carefully concealed. He claimed to have been married 3 times, including once to a woman who allegedly died tragically young. None of these marriages were even proven, and they likely never happened. Burr lived for decades with his partner, Robert Benevita, though their relationship remained private throughout his lifetime. Despite his off-screen mystery, Burr became one of television's most respected and beloved figures. His death in 1993 from kidney cancer marked the end of a long, storied career in which he managed to remain in the spotlight while keeping the most important parts of his life in the shadows. Burr left behind a legacy as one of TV's greatest leading men, but the man behind Perry Mason, he remains a mystery even now.
A toast to the things for which there are no substitutes. Good friends.
Number 16, Montgomery Clift. He was the intense method acting pioneer who gave every role an emotional depth that shocked audiences to their core. But behind that captivating gaze was a man tormented by his sexuality and the suffocating pressure of fame. Clift had relationships with both men and women, but this was the 1950s, and being openly gay wasn't an option, especially not in an industry that demanded flawless leading men. His life took a darker turn in 1956 after a car crash that left his once beautiful face partially disfigured. His career continued, but his self-image crumbled. Addicted to painkillers and alcohol, Clift spiraled into what some called the longest suicide in Hollywood history. By the time he died of a heart attack in 1966 at just 45, the vibrant man who had lit up the screen was a shadow of his former self. Still, his raw, unforgettable performances live on, influencing actors to this day who wonder, how did he channel that much pain? Number 17, Yves Saint Laurent. Yves Saint Laurent revolutionized and reinvented fashion. The man behind the famous Le Smoking Tuxedo for women, Yves made clothing both liberating and luxurious. He had relationships with both men and women, most famously with his lifelong partner, Pierre Berge. His love life was as daring as his fashion, and like any great artist, he struggled with his demons like addiction, depression, and a constant battle with the pleasures of fame. Despite his brilliance, Saint Laurent's life was marked by periods of mental instability and rehab visits. When brain cancer took his life in 2008, he had already cemented his place as one of the greatest designers of the 20th century.
To Saint Laurent, Yves Saint Laurent, as I was addicted to them.
Number 18, Doris Day. Doris Day was the highlight of 1950s and 60s American wholesomeness, smiling, singing, and bringing cheer to millions with her films and songs. She was the kind of actress who made you believe that life could really be all picnics and puppy love. But behind the curtains of her sunny persona were rumors of a more complex woman. While she was married multiple times, whispers of relationships with women followed her throughout her career. Was it true? Doris never said, and that silence only added to her mystique. She lived a long life, passing away at 97 in 2019, taking with her any secrets she may have had. Doris Day may have been America's sweetheart, but the real Doris? That is a question she took to the grave. Regardless, her lasting impact was undeniable. She left behind a world that she had, for a time, made just a little brighter.
Deadwood for the whole of Illinois.
Number 19, Alexander McQueen. Alexander McQueen was the guy who made clothes that felt like they belonged in a Tim Burton movie. Dark, twisted, and absolutely mesmerizing. He redefined the runway, blending gothic elegance with cutting-edge style, and became a massive force in the fashion world. But behind the fabric, McQueen was fighting his depression, the recent loss of his mother, and the pressures of his high-octane career. In 2010, he took his own life, leaving the fashion industry gutted. His death was a reminder that even the brightest stars can have the darkest shadows. McQueen went out like one of his creations, beautifully tragic, painfully unforgettable.
I named my dog after it because I fancied it.
Yes.
Number 20, Richard Burton. Richard Burton's off-screen life was as legendary as his roles on screen. Known for his booming Shakespearean voice and rugged good looks, Burton captivated audiences in films like Cleopatra and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. But perhaps the most famous role was as Elizabeth Taylor's tumultuous on-again, off-again lover and husband, twice. Their love affair was epic, tabloid fodder for decades, with enough drama to fill a library of gossip magazines. However, what most people didn't know was that Burton had relationships with men, too, making his personal life even more complex than his relationship with Liz. His bisexuality was kept mostly under wraps, not least because the media was more interested in the roller coaster that was his marriage to Taylor. But Burton's real struggle was with alcohol, which fueled his dramatic life and contributed to his death from a brain hemorrhage in 1984 at just 58.
You dare ask the proconsul of Rome?
Number 21, Tab Hunter. He was the golden boy of 1950s Hollywood, the guy every teenage girl had on her bedroom wall. With his square jaw and dazzling smile, he was the perfect leading man for romantic comedies and musicals. But behind that perfect image was a man hiding a very different reality. Hunter had relationships with both men and women, but in a time when coming out could kill your career, he stayed firmly in the closet. His clean-cut image wasn't just a marketing ploy, it was his lifeline. It wasn't until later in life, after his career had cooled, that Tab Hunter finally opened up about his sexuality in his autobiography. The weight of those secrets had been lifted, and he was able to live authentically, finding peace in his truth. When he passed away in 2018 at 86, it was the death of a Hollywood heartthrob, and also the final chapter of a life that proved that even in the most image-obsessed industry, truth eventually wins.
Say, how's Stanley the squirrel?
You know my strip?
Sure. Good delineation, good technique.
Number 22, Merl Oberon. Merl Oberon was the face of mystery in Hollywood's golden age, with a beauty so captivating she made everyone want to know more. But getting close? Good luck with that. Born in British India, she was known for playing exotic roles and hiding the truth about her mixed-race heritage, a secret she kept as tightly guarded as the rumors about her love life. Yes, Merl had relationships with men and possibly women, but she wasn't about to confirm that. She married 4 times, each union raising more eyebrows than the last. But her rumored bisexuality was never officially confirmed. She kept her private life locked up in a glamorous vault. When she passed from a stroke in 1979 at 68, the gossip, the glamour, the secrets, they all made Merl's life a classic Hollywood mystery that fans and historians are still trying to unravel. Number 23, Dirk Bogard. Dirk Bogard was the kind of actor who could pull you into his role so deeply you would forget you were watching a movie. From Death in Venice to The Servant, he brought raw emotion and complexity to every scene. Off-screen, though, Dirk was even more complex. He had relationships with both men and women, but rarely spoke about them, giving the press just enough to fuel whispers without lighting a full-on firestorm. He lived for years with his partner, Anthony Forwood, though the public narrative was one of close friendship rather than romance, classic Hollywood-style discretion. When he died of a heart attack in 1999, he left behind not only a brilliant career, but an air of mystery that was never quite solved. Was he gay? Bisexual? Dirk Bogard played his cards close to his chest, and the world respected him for it. But in the end, it is his performances that tell you everything you need to know about his soul.
I'm bound to have to play these rather dull, worthy, quiet, good, kind gentlemen.
Number 24, Rudolph Nureyev. Rudolph Nureyev was ballet's bad boy. And not just because he could leap higher than anyone else in the room. He defected from the Soviet Union in a dramatic airport escape in 1961 because nothing says, "I am done with communism," like jumping onto a plane in Paris and refusing to go back. But his defection was just the start of his defiance. Nureyev was openly bisexual at a time when such things were still whispered about behind closed doors. He had long-term relationships with both men and women, most notably with Danish ballet dancer Erik Brun. His intense passion, both on and off the stage, was legendary. Unfortunately, that passion couldn't protect him from AIDS, which claimed his life in 1993 at the age of 54. His death marked a huge loss for the world of dance, but his legacy lives on. Nureyev didn't just change ballet, he shattered its limits, twirling into history as one of the greatest and most rebellious dancers to ever grace the stage. Number 25, Leonard Bernstein. Leonard Bernstein didn't just conduct orchestras, he conducted life with as much drama and flair as one of his symphonies. The man behind West Side Story, arguably one of the greatest musicals ever, had a personal life that was just as complex as his musical arrangements. Bernstein married actress Felicia Montealegre, with whom he had 3 children, and the two shared a deep bond that transcended traditional marriages. Felicia knew all about Leonard's relationships with men, but the two remained together, raising a family and defying social norms. Bernstein's love life was a symphony of its own, beautiful, chaotic, and full of dissonance. When he passed away from pneumonia in 1990, the world lost one of the greatest composers and conductors of the 20th century. His bisexuality wasn't widely talked about during his life, but now it is recognized as an essential part of his story, one that reflects the complexities of his genius. In the end, Bernstein was all about love in his music, in his life, and in the way he challenged what it meant to truly live. Number 26, Dusty Springfield. With a voice so powerful it could shatter glass and hearts at the same time, Dusty dominated the charts in the 60s with hits like Son of a Preacher Man and You Don't Have to Say You Love Me. But while she was belting out these timeless classics, her personal life was a little more off-key. Dusty had relationships with both men and women, but she didn't make a public fuss about her sexuality in a time when doing so could have derailed her career. Behind the music, Dusty battled mental health issues and addiction, which haunted her even as she continued to be a musical icon. By the time breast cancer took her life in 1999, at the age of 59, she had already cemented her legacy as one of the greatest voices in pop and soul. Her struggles made her human, but her voice made her unforgettable. Dusty may have lived through storms, but she always sang like the sun was shining.
When he started sweet talking to me, come and tell me everything is alright.
Number 27, Rock Hudson. Hollywood's ultimate heartthrob. Tall, dark, handsome, and apparently quite the ladies' man, or so they wanted us to believe. Behind that rugged facade, Hudson was living a double life, juggling secret relationships with men while maintaining a very public marriage to Phyllis Gates. It was classic 1950s Hollywood, where coming out could mean career suicide. But the big twist came in 1985 when Rock died of complications from AIDS, becoming the first major celebrity to put a famous face on the epidemic. Suddenly, this disease had a name attached to it, and people couldn't ignore it anymore.
We certainly had wonderful times, haven't we?
So wonderful.
Number 28, Carrie Grant. He was the man every guy wanted to be and every woman wanted to be with. With those debonair good looks, he charmed his way through Hollywood like a human martini, smooth, dry, and dangerously appealing. But behind the perfectly knotted ties and winning smile, there were whispers. Rumors swirled about his sexuality, particularly his cozy relationship with fellow actor Randolph Scott. Were they just roommates, or was there more going on behind those closed doors? We will never know, but isn't it fun to wonder? Grant died in 1986 from a stroke at 82. His death marked the end of an era, and the world was left feeling like it had lost its genuine, true gentleman, with or without a scandal.
No. I just changed that color, that's all. I'm going for the pale pastel shades now. They're more becoming to me.
Number 29, Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo glowed on screen, capturing hearts with her ethereal beauty and that whole I don't give a damn attitude. Seriously, her most famous line, I want to be alone, became the battle cry of introverts everywhere. Off-screen, she lived up to that slogan, retreating from the public eye and keeping her private life under lock and key. Rumor had it she had lovers of both sexes, with writer Mercedes D'Acosta being one of the more famous alleged flings. But who really knows? Garbo was as mysterious as a black and white detective movie, and when she died in 1990, she took a lot of secrets with her. We will never know the full story, and she wouldn't have had it any other way. Number 30, Tula Bankhead. Tula Bankhead was basically what happened when you mixed equal parts glamour and scandal, then light it on fire. Bold, brash, and about as subtle as a hurricane, she was openly bisexual before Hollywood even knew what the word meant. She had affairs with men, women, and probably a few martinis in between, because why not? Her rumored flings with Marlene Dietrich was the stuff of tabloid dreams, and Tula loved every minute of it. But her wild lifestyle caught up with her, and by 1968, years of hard partying and chain smoking did her in. She died of emphysema, but not before cementing her reputation as a Hollywood legend who lived fast, loved hard, and didn't apologize for any of it. Tula's death was a reminder that living on the edge is fun until it isn't.
Ashton Avenue, back of the yards. And I lived there until I got this.
These stories tell us that fame doesn't always protect you from the darker struggles of life. Many of these stars battled personal demons, societal pressures, and the burden of living in a world that wasn't ready to accept them. If you found these stories interesting, make sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe for more.